Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today I'm going to be out pretty much all day. So I probably won't upload later on today, so I'm going to upload this really early. Well, really early for people on the West Coast, but it'll probably be around 11 p.m. Eastern time when they all get uploaded. But I have Heidi Heitkamp versus Donald Trump in a general election, and I'm just revising one of my older predictions from when I first had my channel early on. I think it was probably somewhere in my first through 20th uploads. It was a different type of upload I did back then. I based everything on the 2016 general election and approval rating polls for Heidi Heitkamp, of course, coming from a solid Republican state. And I based it off that. So now we're going to base it off a number of factors with Trump, with the economy, things like that, and we're going to weigh it all in. So yeah, let's start off with the Western Coast. Sorry if you hear a iMessage ring. My friends are texting me, but I can't respond right now. So Montana and North Dakota, I'm not going to fill in just yet. Texas, that one was a little iffy to fill in, but I decided to fill it in anyway. West Virginia wouldn't really be a toss-up. It could get close. It definitely could get close if she chooses Joe Manchin as her running mate, but we're not weighing in running mate factors this time, so we're going to leave it in the Republican column. But I think if Heidi Heitkamp was just alone the nominee, it would be around maybe 5 to 10% for Donald Trump, because she is a conservative Democrat, and they do presumably well in some solid Republican states. Same thing in a state like Missouri, Claire McCaskill, although she did get very lucky in 2012. She may get lucky around this time with Austin Peterson splitting the Republican vote. So we have New Hampshire, which I'm not going to touch just yet. Sorry about that. All of Maine, except for one electoral vote, would be a toss-up. And this would likely be the map with the, actually, Arizona and Georgia. Heidi Heitkamp's not that inspiring for minorities to turn out. So actually, this is interesting. We have an exact tie between Heitkamp and Trump. So we have 185 for Heidi Heitkamp and 185 for President Trump, and we're going to fill in the map. So Virginia, we know that one's probably going to stay blue. Heidi Heitkamp, being a conservative Democrat, could win a lot of the Republican vote along with Northern Virginia and ultimately win her state. She has a high approval rating, a considerable high approval rating for a Democrat in that state. I think she's one of the most top 10 unfavored senators, but that's because her approval rating, her disapproval rating is a little bit higher than other senators, but I think she has a higher approval rating actually than the Republican senator, or if it's just like a couple points under, but it's very considerable for a Democrat. Her coming from the state of North Dakota, it definitely could help her there. Her being a conservative Democrat and not a progressive or a moderate Democrat, but more of a conservative, that definitely could win a lot of those voters that Barack Obama almost won in 2008. Well, it wasn't necessarily an almost win, but he did make it competitive from years of solidly being Republican. Then we go over to a state like Montana. This one we've talked about flipping before. We had Obama losing it by 2%. And if Heidi Heitkamp can really turn out the conservative to Democratic vote, I think she could win that state. The reasoning behind it is Montana, they don't always vote down ballot. They have a very Democratic governor, and that's because he is a conservative Democrat, but he's still a Democrat nonetheless. Heidi Heitkamp definitely could appeal to people in Montana. Although it is a conservative state like West Virginia, it's not as partisan and the population's not as high. There's less people to convince, and it's a lot easier. So it would be a lot easier for Heidi Heitkamp to win a state with 3 electoral votes compared to a state like Texas with 38, because you would have to convince a lot more people, a lot more ad spending, whereas a state like Montana, the Donald Trump campaign could likely forget about it like they did in 2016, and it could go to the Democratic side. Okay, and then we're going to go over into Ohio and Iowa. You know, those states, actually, I'm just going to turn my volume off real quick so you don't hear the Hangouts tone every time someone texts me. But Ohio and Iowa, they were considerable Republican states in 2016. If Heidi Heitkamp can't really turn out African-American votes, the conservative Democratic vote in these states doesn't really matter. You need the urban vote to come out to vote for you if you are a Democrat. The conservative Democratic vote usually votes for the Republican Party. They didn't vote with Hillary Clinton. A lot of conservative Democrats voted for Donald Trump or just voted third party. And it wasn't a Jill Stein third party vote. It was probably a Gary Johnson third party vote. And that definitely hurt the Clinton campaign. And if Heidi Heitkamp can only appeal to the conservative Democrats in these states, she will need the African-American vote. If she doesn't choose the VP, which we're not factoring in, that can bring out African-American voters, then she's likely going to lose states like Iowa and Ohio, and the same case in the state of North Carolina. And then we go all the way up to Maine. They really love liberal Republicans up in the Northeast, and overall I think that 2nd Congressional District would go to Heidi Heitkamp because I think she would be able to appeal to them more, coming out from a state like North Dakota, appealing to the rural voters. that could definitely help her and weigh into her winning that state. So then we go down to a state like Florida. So Heitkamp probably won't win Florida. With all the factors being weighed in about climate change and things like that, that definitely should help a Democratic candidate. But Heidi Heitkamp isn't really the one to play to that. She could be attacked for her own anti-climate change record herself, and even though she is a Democrat, being a conservative Democrat, she could be attacked for that on many issues, and she could turn off a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters. But down in the state of Florida, Trump would probably win that state again. So then we go over to New Hampshire, Colorado, New Mexico, and Nevada. So all these states went for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Heidi Heitkamp would likely win them because she has more of an appeal, and Donald Trump's approval rating in this state is less than 40% in each one. New Hampshire has a special case. I think it was 45% at one point in the state, but then it dropped down after the comment about a drug-infested den, and it's been considerably low in almost all states across the country. So Heidi Heitkamp has 229 electoral votes to Trump's 253. Latino turnout in these states, even though Hillary Clinton wasn't really a Latino-inspiring candidate, they did turn out to vote for her, and she did win the states. And then we go over to Minnesota. That state would likely to retain with Heidi Heitkamp. I mean, she has some of the closer ideals to the rural voters in Minnesota, to some of the conservatives in Minnesota, and she would likely win that state. And then we go over to a state like Michigan, where Donald Trump's approval rating is detrimental, and it's very hurtful to his campaign, and he's likely not going to win that state again in a general election. The voters there seem as if he screwed them over, and he won their votes once, but he probably won't win it again. Then we go over to a state like Pennsylvania. So we have 20 electoral votes from Pennsylvania, puts Heidi Heitkamp over the top. She would likely win the state because of the fact that the white working class would come out to vote for her. She would get a lot more of the rural vote. Her appeal to Pennsylvania voters would stretch more than the businessman appeal. And her being a woman would definitely help her with women voters. And Donald Trump only won the state of Pennsylvania the first time around because of the fact that he is the awe-inspiring candidate of the businessman candidate. I will fix the economy. The stock market may be at an all-time high, but that doesn't matter to white working-class voters. They need jobs, they need their wages raised, and having a stock market high doesn't really affect them on a major level. They're coming from small businesses or big businesses with the steel industry. Big businesses take the money and they keep it for themselves. They're not going to re-put it out into the American working class, and they're not going to help their workers. And the same message would be played in a state like Wisconsin. Donald Trump's approval rating in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin is lower than 35% in each state. And that's going to be really hurtful to his campaign. These states that he won by less than 2% in every single one of these states, it's definitely going to hurt him. So this is the final electoral map: 285 electoral votes for Heidi Heitkamp to 253 electoral votes for Donald Trump. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you all probably later today.